all set.
And you may use any of the techniques that we've worked with. Or if you wish, you can drop all of the techniques and just simply observe the mind. And as thoughts and feelings arise, just notice them. Do your best to let them go. If your mind is too noisy, you can count your breath or use a mantra. Om Namah Shivaya. Let's come back into objective awareness now by chanting Om 3 times. Well, welcome back after our stormy Thursday last week. So let's start by going around and checking in and tell us how your meditation is going and if you're finding any of the spiritual ideas useful in your life. So where should we start?
I can start.
Okay.
My name is Mike. This week I bumped it up to 30 minutes a day, which has been nice. Some days are great, pretty easy, and some days I just daydream and fight the daydreams all day. I had a kind of so yesterday morning after I was meditating, just reflecting on life a little bit, and I was feeling like I was kind of losing my self-identity a little bit. And I was wondering, because you know that I've been through a lot this last year, so I wasn't sure if it was that. But I also feel like there's a part of it that's just so much of my life I've been so wrapped up in who I think I should be or who I am, and now that I'm kind of practicing letting some of that go on a day-to-day basis, I was just curious if that was part of that.
Yes. Everything you thought you were is not who you are.
Yeah.
So then who am I? That's the question we're going to deal with tonight. Excellent work.
Thank you.
Who wants to go next? Go ahead.
I am always somewhere in my mind asking myself, who am I? So when I meditate, you remember those books from like the late 70s, stereograms, where you like soften your focus and then they would come into this like 3D image?
No, but I'll take your word
Okay.
for it.
That's what I'm doing a little bit. I'm trying to like, because I know that the I am awareness is there and that it's very entangled with the subjective experience. So I'm just trying to soften my focus to have less of a tight grip on objective awareness and just like experience the I am. And that's like it's my constant meditation technique, if you will, but also, just throughout the day, I play with that.
Very good. Are you sitting?
The last 10 days, I meditated twice.
That's one of ego's strategies to come up with excuses, reasons, justifications to not sit. 90% of this work is just becoming aware of what's really going on. That's the primary benefit of meditation. So it's only intellectual without that abhyasa, without that practice. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
You will not get the fruits. In the tradition, we have two terms, two technical terms. Paroksha jnanam, which means indirect knowledge, that you get from reading a book, from hearing it from the teacher, or watching a YouTube video. But aparoksha jnanam is direct experience. So the example I like to use, an 8-year-old takes a sex education class in middle school. Teacher, what's an orgasm? Do your toes curl? Does your head turn to the side? Will I know it when it happens? Now, when it happens, whether you've taken a sex education class or not, you have no doubts. Direct experience. Meditation is fundamental. Abhyasa vairagya cha, what the scriptures say. Abhyasa means practice. Vairagya means intense renunciation of our attachments. What we talked about the very first lesson. Who's next?
Confidence.
Go ahead.
It was really so nice to be here meditating, hearing the traffic. I love listening to the sound of the traffic. It's really sweet. So I got back to practicing this week. I think I missed one day between 10 and 30 minutes. I was doing the just counting the breaths because that was the one that I can do. As far as I've really been working on exploring or investigating the illusion of the self. But what was interesting was I wasn't feeling well this weekend. My stomach hurt, and just right back into self, just so boom. So when I don't know, it's just maybe that's just the normal thing, but and now it's like I'm feeling better. It's like starting to clear up a bit.
Health is the greatest wealth, and we don't realize its value until it goes. And for beginners, ill health can be a significant impediment. If you're rooted in meditation, you'll find you'll be able to deal with poor health with much greater equanimity. It doesn't have to be a barrier. And if you've got a chronic condition, that can be your hood. Really be your should work. Next. Go ahead.
I'm Trevor. I was traveling a bit the past week and a half, and that made it much more difficult to sit. When I was actually traveling, I didn't meditate at all. It's just my schedule was in disarray. Not disarray, just very irregular. But otherwise, I've been back trying to do it more consistently. In terms of what we've been talking about, I think similarly, I've cognitive level for sure. I've been thinking about it a lot at work. In public health, and I've been particularly aware of a lot of suffering, death recently. People have died, and thinking that all I get a lot of reassurance and some ability to sort of step back and have some perspective with sort of recognizing that things aren't as I guess immediate, and recognizing that what suffering and death, for example, isn't the whole story, but still really notice a difference between knowing that cognitively but not having that direct experience.
Be aware that being dead doesn't hurt. Getting there is a tragedy for many of us. But being dead does not hurt.
Yeah.
We suffer because we feel failure, we feel loss, etc. Funerals are for the living, not for the dead, for example. They don't realize that. All right, good work. And the neat thing about being a yogi, when you fall down, you just can start all over. Oops, you didn't meditate for a week. Okay, I can start today. Always, there's a very famous book, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. Any of you read that one? old timey one. But the whole idea is every day you're a beginner. Start over. Who's next?
Go next. First of all, share just a quick funny thought about the beginner thing. One of my yoga teachers used to say that there's only two levels of yoga practitioners: beginners and advanced beginners. That's the way he would say it. I've been continuing with usually doing about 45 minutes of meditation in the morning. I think one time last week I only got 20 minutes in because I had a late start to my day. This morning was an interesting experience where it felt more at the beginning part of my meditation. My mind was thinner or emptier, and I seem to have an ability to be aware of thoughts genesis, almost like the beginning of them, and then there would be so much more space because I would be aware that I was thinking immediately rather than realizing it after a while. Oh, I'm thinking, and then later on I slipped into that, which kind of seemed like the opposite of what would usually happen, like busier mind at the beginning, thinner later on. Yeah. Anyway, take what I can get wherever I can get it. Yeah. That's it. That's an update.
And how are you doing with the philosophical ideas? Are they
Yeah,
of value for you?
that's a really great question. I was going to add, and I kind of just stopped myself. I was given the same mantra as you many, many years ago, and I use it, and I've noticed that while I like it because of how long I've been associated with it, it doesn't really have very much meaning to me. And I've been thinking about, like, do I want to use a different mantra instead? Like, I am Atma Brahman, or something like that, or Om Sat Chit Ananda. And sometimes I do, like, after I say Om Namah Shivaya a couple times, then I'll just try saying, I am Atma Brahma. Because I think the point is, and I think why you're asking the question, and correct me if I'm wrong, that, part of the process is to be open to asking yourself, like, who am I? I mean, ultimately, that's what we're trying to experience, or what we're meditating to have the experience. And I'm wondering if like some other word language prompt would be more beneficial.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Mantras carry vibrations.
Yeah.
A lot of yogis have used Om Namah Shivaya for thousands of years.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, the one he was saying, I am Atma Brahma, means this self is Brahman, is ultimate reality. That's what that particular mantra means. It's a mantra from the Upanishads. Now, just share with you direct experience. Many of you know, for many years, I worked for the Catholic Church as a musician. I just didn't feel comfortable chanting Om Namah Shivaya in church.
Why?
I don't know, out of respect, So I would do the Trisagion, Holy God, Holy and Mighty, Holy Immortal One. I love that one. There's the Jesus prayer of the heart, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy upon me, or the Russian version, have mercy on me, a sinner. Too long. But I can give you a Jesus mantra in Sanskrit. So Jesus's name in Aramaic is Yeshua. So the dative form of that, if you were to give it a Sanskrit twist, would be Yeshwaya. Om Namo Yeshwaya. It's a very good Christian mantra in Sanskrit, for those of you who would be interested in that.
What does it mean?
I bow due reverence to Lord Jesus. instead of Shiva or Krishna or Allah, any other name of God. So whatever what Krishna says in the Gita, in whatever way people approach me, so am I to them. The Hindus came up with the idea of God as I understand God. Now, let me share with you what the truth is about religious conflict. So I'm going to put the glass here on the floor. Daniel, point to the glass. Now I'm going to point to the glass. Now, if the glass is invisible, you point to the glass where it was. You're pointing the wrong direction. You're a heretic. That's called religious war. All it is. Because all religions only point. They do not define. All of them. And all of them carry cultural baggage. Let me give you an example. So, Faz, I assume you were raised Muslim, right? Yes. So, big deal in Iran right now of women wanting to take off the hijab, yes, to not be covered. But people don't understand that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, gave women more rights than the prevailing culture. And if you look at what women were wearing in Europe in the 7th century, they all covered their hair and had pointy hats. So women covering their hair is not exclusive to Islam. Now, today we look on many of the things the Prophet said, you know, oh, but actually he was very progressive. Am I correct in that? Yes. Yeah, a lot of people don't understand that. And all of Hinduism is yoga is not immune from it. It has its cultural context. And there are things we look at about yoga today. We go, that's just, we don't believe that anymore. And the same with Christianity, the same with Buddhism. Because all religions as structural forms come through the human mind. Maybe they're divinely revealed, but they have their limitations. The infinite is ineffable. In Sanskrit, we have these wonderful words, achintyam, you can't think about it. My favorite, avyapadesham. Upadesha means to teach or to talk about. Upadesha, avyapadesham. It's untalkable at the end. All right, next person. Go ahead.
I did not practice much. I meditate. So many excuses, but I just did maybe twice, and my thoughts could, I mean, they go everywhere, but just counting or focusing on my breath helped.
Do you pray?
I don't. I don't practice Islam, and I had a problem basically chanting on any Arabic words. And I still don't know how to come up with a chant to be able to focus.
And you don't need to. The Buddhists are non-theistic. The Buddhists are not atheistic. The Buddhists are non-theistic. The Buddha did not deal with the subject of God. There's a wonderful mantra that Buddhists use. Maybe some of you have heard this one. Om Mani Padme Hum. Anybody heard that one before? Om sounds syllable for the infinite. Money is a jewel. Padme means the lotus. Hum is a seed mantra. So it's Om. I worship the jewel of the lotus of the heart. Maybe that's a loose translation of what it is. It's what's on my little prayer stone. Whatever it is. Om Mani Padme Hum. But it's a completely non-theistic one. Very good one. Who else was left? Cecily?
Yeah, I just sat and observed my thoughts, and when they were pulling me, where I would be. And I went with them, then I came back and over and over. And when I was feeling the Vasana pressure, then I moved to Bhakti and then back and forth. So it was better than the week.
Okay. How about our Zoomies? Any of you want to share? Guess not. All right. So, in many ways, the whole frame of the class, what we've been teaching, is roughly corresponding to what we call the Great Seven Questions. These are found in Adi Shankara's great text, The Crest Jewel of Discrimination. These are the Great Seven Questions. Now, let me preface this. A big part of how to use the teacher is to learn to ask the right questions. And I think I may have told some of you when I was in Kerala in 1994, I hung out for 10 days at Amaji's ashram, the hugging guru from Kerala. People would come from all over the world, most actually there from India. They'd wait for days getting in line. And they'd come up to her and they'd say, "Oh, Amaji, should my daughter marry this boy? Oh, Amaji, should my son go into business and so and so?" I have no idea how she answered them. I don't speak Malayali. Do not treat the teacher as your psychotherapist, as your astrologer, your fortune teller. Those aren't the right questions. Most teachers will do their best to answer them or will tell you, like, I don't know, I can't help you with that. I always find it interesting how people will go to a lifelong celibate and ask for marital advice. But these are the 7 questions that indicate we're getting spiritually mature if we ask these. What is bondage? How has it come about? How does it continue to exist? How do I get out of it completely? What is the not self? Who is the real self? And what is the process of discrimination between the two? What is what is my bondage? How has it come about? How does it continue to exist? How do I get out of it completely? What is the not self? Who is the real self? What is the process of discrimination between the two? Those are the kinds of questions to bring to the teacher. So we've addressed the first four to a large degree. What is my bondage? My bondage is that I suffer. In spite of all the things that I do, my life is still 95 cents worth of work for a nickel's worth of happiness on a good day. How has it come about? Because of my spiritual ignorance. Because of the veiling power of spiritual ignorance, I think I'm my body. I think the phenomenal world is separate from me and is joy-giving and misery-producing. How does it continue to exist? It continues to exist because of beginningless ignorance. Actions do not destroy ignorance. Knowledge destroys ignorance. How do I get out of it completely? Yoga thunders. The only way to get out of the funny farm, the karma chakra, the wheel of karma, samsara, ocean of change of this world, is through the direct experience of my own essential nature. We call that Atma Vidya, knowledge of my real self. Then, how do we do that? By means of investigation, which is the essence of Jnana Yoga, the subject that we're talking about tonight. How do we do it? We know things in the world in a couple of ways. The most common way in which we know stuff is by compare and contrast. For example, to know that this is a chair is to know that it's not the sofa. To know that this is an end table is to know that it's not the coffee table. To know that this is a lamp is different than knowing about the chandelier. We compare and contrast. The problem with our essential nature, the real self, is we've never had an experience of not being me. I have nothing with which to contrast it or compare it. But there's another way of knowing, and that's the method of distillation. Now, we're very lucky in Oakland, we have very good tap water, it tastes great. But if you go over to that place across the bay, San Francisco, so what you have to do is you get a filter to filter out the impurities. Any of you seen the commercial on television about the zero filter? They're really naughty. They say, okay, tap water has, what, I'm making numbers up here, 600 parts per million. Bad stuff. And if you get a Brita water filter, what's it do? It takes out everything but about 200 parts per million. it's purer. But if you get a zero filter, it takes everything out. And you drink that and oh, this is what pure water tastes like. If you have 3 glasses of water, one has blue food coloring, one has yellow food coloring, one has red food coloring, and you have a question, what color is pure water? What do you have to do? Remove everything that is not water. Take out the food coloring. What do you find? Oh, water is clear, colorless, pure. So this is what we're going to learn to do tonight. We're going to take on the practice of Drik Drishya Viveka. It's a technical term. The discrimination between the seer and the seen, between the knower and the known. This is what Swamiji used to talk about. Between the subject and all the objects. The noumenon and the phenomenon. So what is the not self? If it has a beginning and an end. If it occurs in time and space. If it's confined to the waking dream or deep sleep state. If it's a physical object, if it's an emotion, if it's a thought, if it has qualities, characteristics, and most importantly, if it can be known as an object, as an experience that comes and goes, that is not self. Drop it. Let it go. True story. So when I was in the ashram, there was this Western fellow, Rama, who was a student of Chinmaya, who was kind of the head guy. And of course, I was very advanced yogi before I ever even got there. So I was sitting on my bed, which was a little cotton mattress. And I was having all these ecstasies and seeing gold white lights. So I go out to see Ram, the ashram, 26th Avenue. And I said, Ram, I think I've realized the self. Oh, really? He said, what happened? Well, I was in meditation. I had these waves of ecstasy and saw all this gold white light. Really? And then he said, well, what were you experiencing before this? I said, I was just sitting in meditation. And he said, who was aware of sitting in meditation? I was. And when you saw the gold white light and had the ecstasies, who was aware of that? I was. And who's aware of this conversation we're having right now? I am. He said, that's yourself. So many of us get confused and we're looking for something to happen out there. This is how drug experiences can be so deceptive. Before you take the LSD, who knows the ordinary mind? I do. You take LSD and the walls are melting and the toilet paper's breathing, everything. Who's aware of that? I am. And then you come down, you have diarrhea. Who's aware of that? I am. Isn't that what happens for you? It just happened to me when I took acid. So we're looking for this eternal factor, which is always the subject. So we're going to do an actual practice of this meditation tonight. Subject, object, discrimination. And then we're going to drop our attention, drop our identification with anything on the outside. So listen to the sounds of the traffic outside. Who knows the sound of the traffic? I do. You are not the traffic sounds. Not so. Everybody look at the lamp. Who knows the lamp? I do. You're not a lamp. You're the one who knows. Not so. Can you feel the warmth here in the living room tonight? Who knows the sensation of the warmth? I do. You are not the warmth. You are the knower of the not self. So we can go through the whole 5 outer senses. Anything seen, heard, taste, touched, or smelled is not self. Excuse me. Now, let's go to the body itself. Most of us think I'm the body. When you were a child, you had a little body. Went through adolescence and the body changed. Became an adult, the body changed again. Some of us are in our golden years. Isn't that a euphemism? We're old. Body is changed again. But I have been the witness of all the changes in the body. Scan your body right now. Do you have any sensations, any aches or pains, any tickles in your throat? Who knows it? I do. Take a deep breath and feel the breath in the body. Do you not know the breath in the body? You know the body in the same way that you know the glass or the lamp. It is an object of awareness. I am not the body. Let's go to a more subtle level. By the way, that's called the Annamaya Kosha. Annam in Sanskrit means food, cooked rice. It's the food tube. It eats a mountain of food and produces a mountain of poop. in the end is food for worms. That's the body. The next level is what we call the pranamaya kosha, the energy sheath. I was watching this mother with a young child, I think around 6, talk about energy. She was just running around and bouncing up and down and looking at this and looking at that. Have you ever seen kids do that? You know, I'm almost 75. What's the difference? Prana, energy. When I'm feeling good, lots of energy. If I'm not feeling well, I got a bug. No prana. You are not the energy. You are the knower of the energy. Any of you do any martial arts like Aikido or Tai Chi Chuan? Ki or Chi is just the Japanese or Chinese word for prana. Same thing. It's the vital energy. Now, many people get all caught up in working with the energy body. Kundalini, chakras. Oh, Jim, I'm getting very advanced. I'm feeling buzzings in my third eye. These things happen. But who's aware of it? I am. Is it an object of cognition? Yes. Let it go. Not self. Now let's go one level more subtle. Manomaya kosha, the mental sheath. This is where feelings happen, where judgments happen. When I determine that things are good or bad or pleasurable or miserable. Listen carefully. The scriptures say the mind is the world and the world is the mind. All my opinions, all my judgments, all my stories, all my feelings literally create the world I see out there. Sometimes I feel joy, sometimes I feel sorrow. Sometimes I feel anger, sometimes I feel fear. Sometimes I've got enthusiasm, sometimes I'm just bored. But whatever the feelings are, I am the knower of the feelings. I am not my feelings. Not self. Some of us can get very identified with the Manomaya kosha. Oh, Jim, I'm depressed all the time. That's who I am. Oh, Jim, I was abused as a child. I have fear all the time. That's who I am. I'm a fearful person. Not saying this is not a real experience. Yogi wants to understand, no matter how intense they are, not self. They are qualities of the mental sheath. I am not my feelings. Now let's go to uneven, subtler realm. Technically, we call it the Vijnana Maya Kosha, the intellectual sheath. This is the place where thought happens. Do the problem 2 plus 2 in your head. Remember what you had for lunch. Visualize a strawberry. That place is called your intellect. Thoughts go by like your hand in front of your face. Or even better, it's like the sound of the traffic outside. Sometimes I have vicious thoughts, sometimes I've got virtuous thoughts. Sometimes I have important thoughts, sometimes I have trivial thoughts. But whatever the thoughts are, I am the knower of my thoughts. Now, after 4 weeks, we've been meditating and you've been practicing this witnessing. Hopefully, your minds have begun to get quiet. Might even begin to get the sense that there's space between your thoughts. In a quiet mind, who is it who sees the thoughts and even the silence between the thoughts? Now it's tricky because it's like trying to look at your eyes. It is like trying to taste your tongue. It is like trying to shine a flashlight on its own batteries. You will never see the self as an object. You're not going to be in meditation. Oh, there's the self, it went by. No. It's you. In a very quiet mind with this radical reversal of the attentive faculty, look behind your eyes. Now, in this wonderful book, Vivekachudamani, the Crest Jewel of Discrimination, after the teacher takes the student through the negation of the 5 koshas, he said, oh, Guruji, after negating the 5 koshas, there's nothing left. By what instrument then is the self to be known? You do not see, hear, taste, touch, smell, motor, think yourself. Yet you do not doubt that you are you. The self is its own means of knowledge. The self is self-evident. Swayambhu, self-evident. Swayam Jyoti, self-luminous, self-shining, self-effulgent. But Jim, there's nothing there. That's right. No thing there. Yet that nothingness shines as the light of pure awareness. It is that by which everything is known. But itself is never known as an object. Yet it is not unknown. Listen very carefully. In the subtle intellect, I can stop my mind and introvert my attention, and I get the sense, oh, there's nothing there. That aha in the subtle intellect. Pratyabhignana, recognition. That's what becomes transformative. And you see, there's no Jim. There's no Francesca. There's no Mike. Yet you're not a zero. Now, you see the room from your viewpoint. I see the room from my viewpoint. You are aware of your body. I am aware of my body. You are aware of your thoughts and feelings. I'm aware of my thoughts and feelings. But when you introvert your attention and notice, all that's there is pure existence, pure awareness. It's empty like the sky. When I look behind my eyes and notice the knower, there's just pure awareness. Listen carefully. The self in me is not like the self in you. The self in me is the self in you. There's only one of us here. One infinite conscious being. Peeping through the infinite number of body, mind, intellects. When you look at someone, you look into their eyes, and there's a conscious being looking out. That's myself. So what Mike shared, all your ideas about who you think you are, all those. You don't replace, I am this kind of a person. Now I find out, no, I'm this kind of a person. No. There's no person there at all. Just that pure awareness. Sanskrit, we have the term Chid Akasha, the space or the sky. Pure awareness. Now listen carefully. When you dream at night, your mind creates a dream world, a dream body, and a dream ego identified with it. But I am the knower of the dream. You wake up. What happens to the dream body and the dream ego gone? But you have gone nowhere. The difference between what we call jiva bhavana, this deeply rooted belief that I'm a person, mostly I'm my body, and the knowledge, oh no, I'm the space of pure awareness. It's just a subtle shift, although it's incredibly profound. Next week, we're going to go in depth into what is the ego. How does it differ from my real nature? So to review, it occurs in time and space. If it has qualities and characteristics, if it has form, if it's the body, if it's a feeling, if it's a thought, most importantly, if it can be objectively known, that's not self. Drop it. Go of my attachment, my identification. I am not the body, not my feelings, not my thoughts. No individual or personal sense of self is real. We have a term in Sanskrit, chit chaya. Chaya means shadow. The ego is a phony self. It's fake news. It's not real. And if I introvert my attention and go looking for a person, Jim, just melts like a shadow does in the light. Something very real is there. So that mantra that Daniel was playing with, I am Atma, this self, meaning me, is Brahman, is that consciousness that's the ground of being of everything. When you realize yourself, to realize the self in every life. Many of you have entered into that vision. You can feel it in the room. Some of you, the mind hasn't dropped. No blame. To more devotion, to more karma yoga. Chant the name of the Lord. Continue to meditate. Back to this text that I referred to, the crest jewel of discrimination. Shankara gives us these four great qualities, these qualifications of a fit student, being adhikari. First, discrimination, the firm conviction in the intellect that Brahman alone is real, meaning is consciousness, and the phenomenal world is unreal, meaning for what we're doing tonight, the body, the mind, the intellect, the egosense. This is known as discrimination between the real. Then it's followed by vairagya, that desire to give up attachment to all enjoyments gained through the senses. And that desire, mind you, we don't do it overnight, to give up all identification with any personal sense, any form of self, starting with the body, up to and including the creator, meaning I'm a very powerful person. Vega. Discrimination. Let go. Let go. All right, that's all I have tonight. If questions come during the week, write them down. I don't want to disturb the quietness of the mind. Can you all feel it tonight? This is a little taste of your own self-nature. The object is causing this peace. It's the mind having come home to the self. We'll end here. Om